Alright guys, so we are here looking at another game with the Simic Control deck. We are still in the Pauper format. This is a pretty good opening hand here. We have 2 green sources for the Thermokarst on turn 3 if we want to. We have the Evolving Wild, so we can find the more important blue mana. 9 times out of 10 what you want is that blue mana source because, double green is great. You need it for kicking the Shambler and get the Thermokarst into play, but you really need that blue mana to get this deck moving. So we also are hoping to find a creature here at some point in time to kill off this Drake. It's really, not pleasant to have the Drake and no other creatures. If you had like the Coiling Oracle, you would feel a little better about things, but we do draw a turn 2 play anyways. We get the Rune Snag and we'll have that counterspell available. My opponent seems to be playing mono blue, and this is increased by the fact that he tries to get a Delver out. And we will, of course, try and Rune Snag that. Rune Snag is not so great on the first casting, because it only costs 2 to prevent, but this early in the game it actually works really well. You can usually hit a turn 2 play, or, a Delver like this to stop that, and it kind of ramps it up for later. Let's just open this graveyard so we can check this out later as the game goes. I like to keep this open just so we can keep track of how many Rune Snags, accumulated knowledge, that kind of thing. Creatures for the Drakes. So we counter that Delver, and my opponent does actually get a second one into play. I'm not terribly worried about it. I do have 2 Vapor Snags to deal with that later on. I am going to Thermokarst on this turn. Now, Mono Blue Control can get by on only 3 or 4 mana and survive a whole game like that without a problem. But if you can slow them down, if maybe you get this land and you can keep him at 1 land for a couple turns, then that puts you at an advantage. Spreading Seas at this point in time just acts as a card draw. My opponent seems to be only playing mono blue, so that's what we're gonna do. We do have Vapor Snags, like I said. We'll keep those for next turn. If he flips it here, then we're just gonna have to take 3 and kind of suck that up, because I think the better play is to slow down his mana. He gets a lot of control at the 2 drops. All his counter spells and stuff are at the 2 drop. So if you can keep him at 1 land for a couple turns, then you can slide in some spells around any counters he might have had. So he doesn't actually flip the Delver, a little bit in our favor, but he does hit that second land drop. So we only kind of slowed him down a step. Not a pretty big deal in Mono Blue's mind. And we do draw into a Coiling Oracle. We have now created a dying creature for our staged Drake. We have to find an opportunity to kill it, though. He's not going to die to this Delver. He really needs to play another creature for this Oracle to die. If this Delver stays as 1/1, he's not going to attack into my Oracle. He's not going to block my Oracle. And if it flips, he's going to attack, and I'm not going to have anything to kill the Oracle with. So we're just hoping that at some point he finds a way to kill this Oracle so we can get the Drake into play. Maybe if you get a whole bunch of Oracles and you force him to block with the 3/2 Delver, then that would be important, but it's going to take all 4 to get that kind of thing to happen. So now my opponent reveals the card. He does flip the Drake. It is a Fairy Trickery. Dude, if you're watching, there are so many better counterspells than this. Like anything, you get a lot of the 2 drops. You got Mana Leaks, you got Rune Snags, you've got Counterspell itself. Fairy Trickery is not a great card. It's going to take him 3 mana to actually play that. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is important to keep this open just so I know that he has a Counterspell in hand. It's probably going to be beneficial, especially now he finally hit his 3rd mana drop, when I try and play a Vapor Snag. Now, something else we learned here is my opponent is playing red, so these Spreading Seas that I have here are sitting pretty good. They can actually, I will hold them now to try and deal with red mana, unless I get to a point in time where I feel I need card draw, and hope that slows him up a little bit. I'm not sure at this point in time how much of his deck is red, so it may not bother him at all, but still it's something a lot of casual players, I like to say, will take a little better, because you're not actually slowing down their mana, you're just changing the color. So they're a little more susceptible to that than if you're playing a whole bunch of other land destruction spells. So we do search out a land here. I am going to swing with the Oracle, but again, I really need him to play another creature so I have an opportunity to kill it. And we have an opportunity with this 3 land. He keeps it open. We're going to wait till he attacks. If he tapped out, then it's a great time to play the Vapor Snag and preventing him from attacking this turn without getting it countered. But because he's left this mana open, I'm going to wait until he attacks to play the Vapor Snag. Bounce that, if he lets me, or, eat this counter spell, take the 3 damage, and I will get the Vapor Snag in on next turn. So we see he does play the Trickery, and that will get returned, so we can swing with the Oracle, and we'll get the Vapor Snag on this guy this turn. And we can hope that, once again, he has trouble trying to flip this guy. At this point in time, you see, I did mention the only time I would use it on an island is if I was a little short on cards. That is definitely... I know I'm going to use the Vapor Snag on this turn, and that leaves me in hand with a land. I will play, but I will get another land back, and the Drake, which I have as unplayable at this point in time. So I really wanted to get that card draw, hoping to find accumulated knowledge or something. I do find a Sprout Swarm. As you can see here, it's not the ideal thing. I really want to draw, but I'm not going to complain over it because it's going to allow me to start getting a creature advantage. I talked about having all those oracles to force him to block with the flipped Delver, and this may present the opportunity. So now he's going to, of course, replay his Delver, and we see he's finally given us an out in the Surveilling Sprite. This is a card that he wants to block with. He wants this creature to die. So we're more than happy to oblige him, because by trading these two, he's going to get to draw a card, and I'm going to get a 3/4 flyer. I like to play aggressive, so I like to attack into this. As you'll see later on, even if I'm swinging with the Drake, I will attack into a Sprite. He will draw a card, but I'm feeling pretty good. I think I'm sitting at an advantage at this point in the game, and I have no problem letting him draw that one card. So here we go. We're going to attack through with the Oracle first, so that we can get this Drake into play. Like I said, you see he's more than happy to trade those creatures so he can get to the card draw. And you block with that and you feel like that's your right move, and it is for him, but for me it works out more in my favor because he doesn't know I have this Drake coming into play. And now you see I have the mana available to get a Sprout Swarm at the end of turn, because I have to leave my Drake at home anyways, so I will be able to convoke it to reduce the mana cost on that. So Delver still does not flip, and this just makes that Vapor Snag all the better. The fact that my opponent cannot get that going. So Sprite number 2 comes down. Like I said, I like to play aggressive, so I'm going to, you'll see here, attack into it. I did have mana open for Rune Snag that whole turn, and that one, you see, I have one in Graveyard, so that will need 4 to pay it off. But I am going to tap out end of turn to get that token into play. Accumulated Knowledge, finally going to get some card draw going. You really want kind of multiples of those. When you get to 3 or 4, that's when it's a powerful draw spell. First one, not so great. It's just like Rune Snag. And we draw into Cartographer. Again, at this point, I have 5 land open. I'm going to save that for Sprout Swarm, unless he forces me to use a counterspell, at which point I will play the Cartographer. I've down to 3 mana anyways. I'm not going to be able to play the Sprout Swarm. And while I like to save the Cartographer for the cycling lands, I'm at a point in the mid game where I'm just drawing into lands. I really want to thin them out of my deck, so I'm going to be okay with using another Evolving Wilds. And you see he does finally show his first red card. Brimstone Valley is coming down. I will have to use Rune Snag because I really want to protect this Drake. The Drake is kind of your biggest creature next to the Shambler. He will still win you more games because he has that evasion and flying. So you want to protect him at all costs. Brimstone Valley is something that would have killed him without the Morbid ability because of the 1 damage caused by the Sprite. But you see here, so I am going to play the Cartographer. I'm going to use the Evolving Wilds. Like I said, I want to thin land out of my deck. I'm kind of, this is just the player I am. I get really tired of drawing into land in the mid game. I want, anything but land. It's one thing kind of why I don't play limited, is because I get so frustrated when I'm, I need just a creature or something to win a game, and I hit a land pocket. And it's unbearable. So he's still not hitting the Delver. But that's, okay with us. I am going to still be aggressive and attack through his Sprite, let him draw a card. I have mana open, so I'm going to be able to swarm again at the end of turn. And I have a counterspell as well to keep my Drake protected. So you see here, he is actually going to attempt to Brimstone Valley yet again, but I will counterspell that, and he will draw his cards, and life will go on. So finally he does hit the think twice, flips the Delver. I'm going to close this here, but when I'm playing the game, I keep this open. You see my opponent has 3 cards in hand. I know one of those is a think twice. Just kind of an important thing to know. I like to leave those open as long as possible. So he's going to swing through here. He thinks he's ahead in life, but I'm just going to keep these tokens coming. Hopefully he can't stop any of my creatures. Now he plays a Perilous Mirror, and this is kind of an interesting one. Let's fast forward past this. You see here, I draw a snag. I can keep the Drake protected, but when it comes to attacking, I am going to declare attackers. And at first, you see, I left the Cartographer open. The mirror is going to be able to jump block a Saproling, and in response to it dying, kill the Cartographer. Now, there's no point to not attack this. It is definitely the wrong play to leave this creature at home. If you swing with these 3 and leave the Cartographer untapped, he is going to block, kill the Saproling, and then kill the Cartographer. So it's just wasted. So by attacking with the Cartographer, he's going to be able to kill it, but this doesn't trigger until the mirror dies, so he's going to still get that 2 damage through. There's no more damage on the stack ability, so that damage is going to go through. The mirror is going to die, and after it dies, after the Cartographer does the damage, then it's going to matter, and then it's going to be able to kill it. But we still got extra damage in there, and that's the important part. So he draws cards. He's got the think twice's multiples in the graveyard, so we have to kind of watch out for this red mana. He's got another Brimstone Volley, something like that, that we want to be aware of. And you see he does. Creatures have died. He's going to attempt to do 5 damage to the Drake, but we do have a Rune Snag. So Rune Snag number 3 is going to counter Brimstone Volley number 3. And this time around, it is going to be countered unless he pays 6, because I have 2 others in grave. But he is completely tapped out, so it's not really an important factor anyways. Now he's going to leave his Delver open and available to block later on. You see, I kind of made a mistake there. I F4'd my opponent's turn, expecting him to make some play, which he did not do, so it ended up working the same as had I F6'd. So I did miss a Swarm token. Kind of a misplay on my part. If you're going to use those, I always use the F buttons too. I should have F2'd my way through that. You will see you won't see it, but from here on in the game, I will do that again. So now I try to kill the Thermokarst to the mountain, and he does get another counterspell. So by protecting that, I'm kind of under the assumption that he has a red spell in hand. He's leaving this Delver open to block, so I'm thinking between the Delver and whatever red spell he has in hand, he's going to finally be able to kill the Drake. But we're okay with that. You see, fast forwarded past that, but he does get the Geist Flame to kill that off, and like I said, we're okay with that because we have the Sprout Swarm. It's kind of, as long as he does not counterspell that, we're sitting at unlimited creatures. We will be able to put out a token every turn. Usually you want to do these end of your opponent's turn so that you can have it open and not suffering from summoning sickness to attack. So we draw another Vapor Snag. That's great. We're going to be able to use that later on if he gets another creature, like a Delver, in play. Flash Spec, the Geist Flame is expected to kill one of the tokens. Like I said, you only want to use the Vapor Snag if he's gets the Delver in play, and if it flips. If he's swinging with 1 damage Delver, we're more than happy to let him do that. We can, in response to his attacking, play Sprout Swarm, so it would jump block and kill the Delver. So it would be stupid on his part. At this point in time, the only thing we're really worried about is the 3/2 flying version. Other than that, the Vapor Snag is just going to kind of sit there until we can, find a use for it. He hasn't really played any creatures worth, dealing with outside of the Delver, so I'm not too worried. You see, I draw Cartographer and the Thicket. At this point in time, I'm a little disappointed that I used a green mana source to use the Knowledge, because if I had not, I would have been able to cycle, play the Cartographer, and cycle it again. But, that's just the risk you take. I'm not sure I would have done it any different knowing this. This deck is heavier blue if you want to have the mana available for counterspells and stuff. I like to tap as few blue sources as possible. But, I guess you do the math, it would have worked out better had I, tapped 2 blue and had that green available. The odds just aren't great for this happening this way, so we're going to skip a turn of Sprout Swarm here to play the Cartographer in the thicket and whatnot. You see we got another Chamber in play. More than happy to let that all go. He's drawing cards. Pretty uneventful at this point. If you wanted, you could have waited, not played the Cartographer on this turn, and got a Swarm token instead. I think this is the wrong play. By playing the token, you only get one token, which will be 1 damage on the following turn, and your opponent will be at 1 life. By playing the Cartographer on this turn, you allow it to go through Summoning Sickness and swing for 4 on the next turn for the kill. If you got the Sprout token and just held on to the Cartographer, then you would be 1 short, and it's just, you got to be aggressive with this. And again, he's got a mirror, and he's going to be able to block a Sapperling to kill the Cartographer. But we have 2 choices here. First off, we're going to attempt a Vapor Snag, and if he does not have a counterspell in these 3 cards in hand, then it's game. If he does have a counterspell and prevents that from happening, then we're still sitting pretty good. We will attack through. The Cartographer will do damage, even though it dies, and we'll still get 3 damage. He'll be at 1 life. And we're still sitting with the token generator in hand, and we're still going to be able to win this. But we do cast the Vapor Snag. He does not have an answer to it, and we will be able to simply attack through on the win. And again, just a little note I like to add, playing classy, we're just going to, we see the win is in hand, we're just going to get straight to the attack phase to see if it happens. No point in killing off his land, cycling this thicket. Go for this first, and if he has some answer to prevent you from winning, then make the plays in your second main. It's not a big deal. But that's another game. Hopefully, show you the benefits of the Sprout Swarm. I know it's kind of the oddball choice in the deck, and hopefully this will kind of aid my or back my decision. I guess is the words I'm looking for here. So hopefully that backs my decision, and you will run it with the token generator.